What's going on, guys? We are back with another video, and today we are continuing where we left off with our simple Flask web app, where we learned how to call a simple API, the OpenAI API, and we have defined our client and our API key. And if we're here, we can now make some magic happen, in my opinion. So, what we are going to learn in this video, I would say, if we really grasp the core concepts of this video, we will understand the real meat and bones of web development and integrating backend and frontend. So what we're going to do today is we're going to make another API route, which is we're going to regenerate some image, and we're going to connect that to the front end by using some simple JavaScript to make a fetch request to our backend, take that image and render it on the front end. So you could imagine how many different applications this could be. You could have, for example, you could do, this will be true for any web app where you must have something on any dynamic web app where you must request some response from the backend. So it could be a database entry, it could be what's the weather today, it could be generate an image from Midjourney or from Dall-E or anything like that. And we're going to learn it. We're going to look at the networking. We're going to inspect the core fundamentals of the web. And if taking this with you, you might see the web differently. Okay, so let's get into it. So the first step, we will just make another route. And this route will just be the image route. And we're going to define image, a function, and let's simply start by returning JSONify, and let's just try to return a response as a key, and the value should just be hello world. So we'll make sure that everything's working as intended. We'll just run flask run flask debug run, and we'll make sure everything is working properly. Let's wait. By the way, this was a fragment of what I made earlier, but so we will all be at the same page. Okay, let's now go to image API / image, I believe, and we get this hello world. So we just debugged that things are working. Okay, let's go to the next step. Now we will just Google OpenAI Images API. This is how I do it. I go to the first link here, image generation. You can read up on things here, but if you choose the Python Python manager, which we are writing this in .py files, right? You could do this in JavaScript as well. Or Node.js is a JavaScript runtime, so JS stands for JavaScript. Okay, so we'll choose Python, and we'll just copy the code here. We already have this client defined, and now we're going to the images.generate API instead of the chat.completions API. Okay, so let's just copy this thing here and format it properly. I like this formatting better. So, and they say that the image URL comes from this object. So I'll trust them on that one. So we'll have the image URL, and let's just return the image URL like so, image URL. So if we make a request now, this should be nothing new. This should in the same way as before when we use the completions API, this should generate a image URL, and it should take some time. I've refreshed my browser now, but it takes some time to generate. So this one is a lot slower than the chat completions API. So this took maybe 7 seconds. And let's just I'll just copy this link from the image URL and just go to that link and see what they have brought to us. A beautiful Siamese cat. I'm not sure I'm so interested in Siamese cats. I love fishes. Sorry, fish, but I believe fishes are many species, plural for species. But I want to big blue marlin in the ocean. Okay, I like blue marlins. Okay, so this will be the generation for us. And so we have this API, and we can see how it works. let's integrate it into the front end. So the first part is we will make a script tag, and we will, in the same way we did here with the styles tag, we will make a new file in the static folder called scripts. And this static folder, I believe, is not important that it's named statics, but it's I believe it's just more easier to keep track of stuff. But let's make it scripts.js, and in here we will make this here, and we'll do static / scripts.js and end the script tag. Excellent. And let's just make a button called click me, and I will go please. And when I click it, I will call a function called button click, like this. And now we will just define the function. Function button click. Let's do it like this. And we will do an alert button clicked. Okay, excellent. So this is just to make sure everything is set up correctly. So we will double check when we go to our like here we have a new button, and if we click it we get an alert. Okay, so if this is just the intended behavior, it means that we have connected the script tag with our HTML properly. So let's do the next step. This is that once the tag is clicked, we will instead make this function get something from the backend. So what we want to do in pseudocode is basically make a fetch or make a request to the backend, take response. This is a comment, by the way. Take a response and display it in the HTML/CSS. Okay, so how do we do that? So when we get something from an API, as you saw before, it took approximately 7 seconds to generate this. So there's something we have to wait. We have to await something. We have to wait. We have to run this function. And before we can do anything else, really, at least in this context, we have to wait for the response. So we have to do some await. We have to await a response. And what do we want to await? We want to await. Want to make a response. So this fetch thing here, this is the equivalent in Python. This fetch is the equivalent of the requests library in Python. So in assignment 1 in Python, you guys use the requests library to make a GET request. So you did requests.get and then from a URL like this. So now we will make a request. You can think of this as a request to a URL. And the URL we'll make it to is /API/image. It's the same URL as we made here before, /API/image. So this will go, / is the root folder of the website we're on. So it will make it to the website we are on currently. And that's good because that's the server we have made. And the method we will use here, I think I told you guys once that there are a couple of different methods to make requests. We have the post, we have the delete, we have the get. So we will just, for simplicity's sake, make a get request. So get just means we get some data. We're not writing to some database or anything. And we just need one more thing here. We need to make this function async JavaScript. So you can read up exactly on, because this research, W3 School, they're very good. They will tell you a little bit about what it means to for an async function, but I will tell you in my words how I interpret it. So we have to await a response from the web server or the server we have made to get the image, maybe 10 seconds. And this function, that making the function async or asynchronic, will enable us to wait for the response. And so it understands that this function should not run a bunch of things in parallel or something. It should just wait for the response and then do something. So go line by line, basically. Okay, so if we make this, we get a response. And remember, in JavaScript, we write const before, whereas in Python, you don't have to write anything before declaring a variable. So we declare this variable, and set it equal to this response. Let's wait for the data and just console.log it. So console.log is the equivalent of the print in Python. Print is the same as print data in Python. That's right. So let's just console.log it and we'll see some different stuff. Okay, so let's just double check. We make into the /API/image, we make a GET request and we take the data, we wait to process the JSON. So there's coming in a string of different bytes and we're just interpreting it as JSON. So JavaScript object notations. We're interpreting the response from the server. So your browser will interpret it as this type of object. And so there's a bunch of magic going on. How do you interpret a string of bytes into something meaningful in your browser? But that's been taken care of by the Chromium browser, and we will just let it run. So let's clear my my terminal, and let's see what happens if I click this button. So if I will go slowly. If I press inspect here, right click on my browser and press inspect. Here I can see the HTML of the browser. I can see the button that I made and the onClick event, that when this button is clicked, this function will be called. And under the network tab, we can see any request or response being made to the from your browser. So this could be in your browser, and we click this button. So it seems like the old JavaScript is still there. So we'll refresh the page to make sure that the new JavaScript is here. But when we press click me, you can see here that there's some request being made in your network tab, and it says pending, and it's making a fetch request to this image API. So you can see the URL here is my local IP address, that /API/image. And now I can see the status is 200, which means a success. And you can see the response here in your browser is the URL. So we can go here. Hopefully we'll see a marlin, which would be a tremendous fish, one of the coolest fish. But there's a bunch of cool fish. And this pretty unclear what this part. Maybe I'm stupid here, but it looks very cool. Maybe it's the surface of the water. Very cool, at least. So you can see the response here. You can see what the request was being made. You can see all about it here in your inspect tab. But if you go to a website like Amazon.com or something like this, and you do something, you will see that there's a million requests coming in all the time. So like if I click a website here, you can see there's a bunch of like fetch, some different requests. Some are fetch requests, and you can see all the responses here. This one has an all response. This one has a huge JavaScript object as a response. So you can see that all websites do this kind of behavior where you request something from the server and you get the response. Okay, thanks for bearing with me, guys. And now for the last step. Let's have this beautiful marlin, or actually it will be another marlin because it's probabilistic, be rendered into my browser. So instead of logging it, I will go document. Document refers to the web page we're on. So just the entire document. And I believe there's something called like document.style. No? What's it called? I looked at it here before. It is called document.body. It's called document.body, body.style. You can look up from this W3 School or ask ChatGPT, but I don't remember. But it was document.body because this is the body that we want to change, and we want to change the body for the background image as we did here in the CSS, to be this new URL. So we want to change it from this old URL to this new one. So I made these different quotation marks rather than the ones I did because I want to format the string to add something in here. So let's just say that we have the image URL, which is the data, and we get the image URL, right? We looked here in the request. We see the image URL key has the value of this. So we want to get the value of this. We just write dot image URL, or we could write like this, get the image URL key. But we'll write dot image URL because this is common in JavaScript. And now we just want to set this image URL instead of this boring forest that we have before. We want to set it to to the image we've made. And so we want to replace this part here with the dynamic generated URL. So we will format the strings, and thus we will have these marks here. And inside the formatting, we will write $sign. $sign is in JavaScript, and this where you can insert a variable. So we will insert variable. So this will make the string look something like this. It will look like a URL, and then inside there will be a link. So here is the link. And now we should, oh wait, this looks background image. This should look right. We don't need any console.log. So if we refresh our website, we make the request again and wait 10 seconds. We'll see here, blah, blah, blah. We'll see the network tab. Blah, blah, blah. Button clicked. We will see here, yes. So I mistakenly looked wrongly through the network tab. But here, when I click the button, it makes a request to the server. So this is pending, so it's generating some response. So OpenAI is currently using their Dall-e 3 model or whatever to create an image URL. And once we get the image URL, so it just takes like 10 seconds or something. You can see this is pending for a long time. It gives us this beautiful response URL. And then the URL is rendered on our website through this document.body.style.background image, setting it to this URL. And you could have a bunch of stuff here. You could add loading states so it doesn't look so awkward. You could change the title here. You could make the button. You could have a prompt here inside here. So you could actually prompt the image model for what to generate. So I don't have to manually say I want a Marlin. But still, I think this is pretty cool. And we've learned some very important stuff. We learned the fetch API. The async await fetch API, where you can get a response from a server. You could get it from your own server, some what's the weather today server, from a database, from Google, from whatever. You make a request, you await the response, you take the response and you render it into your website. So this is how our website works. And you have also learned now about the Dall-e 3 Image API. So you can imagine how many cool projects you could make like this. Thanks for your time once again.